I could never have thought on the second day that Israel would be vilified, sidelined on the most extreme type that we've ever seen. The fact that there was a specific type of terror one like that, then I thought, sadly, over the last few years, we've seen more and more in the United States that's focused against Jews, Israelis, Zionists. Iran calls us the little devil. The big devil is the United States of America, Western values in general.
Please welcome Colonel Miri Eisin. Miri, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And we spoke at the top of the show about the terrible attack in Washington, D.C. What's your take on what happened in the nation's capital?
I'm looking at the aspect of how rhetoric becomes extreme, how extremism is exactly what leads to terrorism, and how almost nobody is calling it out as a terror attack. There are a lot of different words that are used for it, and I'm disturbed mainly by that. I'm noticing that instead of highlighting the hate, the Judaism, the site itself, it's not like he knew who they were. It's being focused on two Israeli employees. I'm like, these are different aspects which just show that it's going to get worse, not better, at least as of now. The framing of it, both in the United States and around the world, is something that's really disturbing.
We know that the murderer, the terrorist, had a vast history of speaking out against Israel, very radical rhetoric, involved with radical organizations. What should we read into that?
We're on social media right now, probably most people who are watching us. So was he. It's kind of textbook extremism. It's the one who took all of those different ideas and took them to violence, and then thought that violence against people, human beings, citizens, that he called Jews, Israelis, that's okay. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. And that extreme kind of action inside social media, that's how you recruit people. It's not just how you recruit young people in the United States of America, Michael, it's how they recruited people into the Islamic State. It's the exact same thing.
Very, very worrying, particularly in America and in Western countries. You know, we began this show on the second day of war. We are now approaching 600 days of war. Take Israel's pulse, if you will, as we approach this grim milestone.
First of all of us are surprised, in awe, resilience versus, oh my God, what is going on? The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, have been fighting on so many different fronts. That's the warfare. I think that in those different fronts, we're doing very well on the Lebanese or in the Syrian against Hezbollah, against those different forces. We've been certainly doing a lot when it comes to the Islamic regime of Iran, the Houthis. When it comes to Hamas and the Gaza Strip, that's a challenge militarily. But in all of the different fronts, I think it's what we're sitting here right now after 600 days, almost 600 days, that I feel the worst about. And that's that in the international front, I could never have thought on the second day that Israel would be vilified, sidelined on the most extreme type that we've ever seen after, a year and 8 months of war.
Let's talk about those two front lines, the battlefield in Gaza first. We saw an intensification of the IDF campaign in Gaza. Why now?
Because you're not going to allow Hamas to define the rules of the game. And Hamas very much wants to do so. Because we need to highlight the difference. And it's a harsh one. And I'll talk about that a bit after. It's a harsh one between the civilians who suffer in the Gaza Strip. Let's not ignore that. And between Hamas, who are Palestinian, who rule the Gaza Strip and are trying to hide behind that civilian front. We need to make sure that Hamas does not define the rules of the game, that they don't portray themselves as the victims, as the Palestinians in that sense. Yes, they're Palestinians. They're not the victims. They're not just the perpetrator. They prepared this years in advance to be able to have their own longevity in being able to withstand Israel. So what we're doing is continuing to attack, same. We're attacking the weapons that they're making, the different cache of weapons, that underground system where we've done a lot, but a lot is very little compared to what they prepared in 20 years.
We had Colonel Richard Kemp on the show last week. We spoke about the fact that wars are long. Wars take time. People don't seem to have time, and there's a patience running out in the West, perhaps, towards Israel. What do we need to know about how long this war might take and why?
I'm going to say, sadly, that I still think that we're in it. I don't think that 2025 is necessarily when it's going to be done. But let's say that right now we're at semi-high intensity in the Gaza Strip. But in the other fronts, you're not seeing that same type of intensity. Here it's about the balance also of a country. I think that we have to breathe in deep. There is no easy fix for what Hamas built in the Gaza Strip. There is no easy way to bring back 58 hostages that are inside the Gaza Strip. There is no easy way. That means we need resilience, but we also need to be aware that when we want to get back those hostages, we have to pay a price. And that seems impossible. How can we be paying more of a price? But that's exactly what Hamas did. They prepared it in such a way that if we want to get them back, we're going to have to pay a price. And inside that balance, I breathe in deep. I look at us and I say, we're here. We're not going anywhere. We have amazing resilience. But we also have to breathe in deep and continue to be. If we all wallow just in the issue of the hostages, that's not going to help us. If we all look at the war as being something that if I just do a little bit more and I hit from there and I attack from there, then that will make them break. I am sad to say that's not going to happen either. So you have to continue and make sure that Hamas does not define the rules of the game, but you need to be aware that that doesn't mean that you're actually going to erase Hamas without erasing all of the Gaza Strip.
And despair is not a strategy.
I want to say that all of us get there, and I think we should acknowledge it. Okay, we have days of despair. I think that last Thursday was a day of despair, more as somebody who was born in the United States. The fact that there was a specific type of tier one like that, then I thought, sadly, over the last few years, we've seen more and more in the United States that's focused against Jews, Israelis, Zionists, because they're all the same for them. But here we are, and I'm standing strong. As you know, Michael, my entire family serves. And I say that it's not just about resilience, it's about serving and knowing that this is something that we can withstand. We're going to still be here, and we're going to have our kids here, and their kids are going to have their kids here. We still have a long way to go.
Let's talk about the international pressure, the diplomatic pressure placed on Israel this week, particularly from the UK, from France and Canada. What result does that have?
What it has is it makes the voices who talk, and I'm going to call it a language, humanitarian, much stronger. We in Israel, Colonel Kemp, we talk security. Those are two different languages. It's two different ways of looking at this war, and we usually talk here and talk a lot of security. We don't necessarily talk humanitarian. I think you actually have to talk both languages, meaning let's acknowledge not some, but the pain that's coming out of what those three leaders are saying. And as I listen to Prime Minister Netanyahu and him talking about their being on the wrong side of history, it's looking at the war through the eyes of victims. It is a way to look at the war. I don't go there, but I understand that. We also talk about our victims. And in that sense, as I look at that right now, how can it be again that we're in a place where our close allies, I have to say, it's not like the United States of America is calling out on our side right now, so that when we talk about the United Kingdom and about France and about Canada, that's worrying, and we need to listen and not just block them off.
Let me ask you about the Iranian talks with the U.S. They had the 5th round of talks happen in Rome this week. How's Israel looking at those talks?
You see, Iran has been very careful. They only threaten us. I want to remind all of our viewers right now that Iran calls us the little devil. The big devil is the United States of America, Western values in general. Iran wants to not just achieve nuclear weapons, it wants to keep the capabilities that they've already built. They are masters of the negotiations. This is the 5th round. They'd like the 6th round and then the 7th round. Oh, the 8th round and the 9th round, that for Iran is basically taking it out, the Islamic regime, and making sure that in the meantime, they're keeping their capabilities. The entire international community and Israel as well do not want a war. But what that also means, if I go back to my security and humanitarian, is looking at if Iran goes nuclear, oh my God, that changes the world. And I think that Israel in that sense is going, what happens if the talks keep on going and go nowhere? Because if these talks arrive at a resolution, you and I are both going to enjoy that. But I don't see any resolution in the offing, which is one that we can actually swallow. And that brings us to a harsh reality. Will we or won't we attack? I don't know. But I absolutely think that we're talking about that right now.
And meanwhile, Iran continues to fund the Houthis, continuous ballistic missile attacks on Israel, even this morning, even on your way to the studio. What do we expect to that?
The continuation of the Houthis attacking. What Iran did, the Islamic regime with the Houthis, very similar to Hezbollah, is not only did they supply the weapons and the ideology and the know-how, they also supply the physical material so the Houthis can make their own. We look at Yemen in a lot of different ways. It's a large country, 34 million people. It's not so small. It is the worst country on earth, according to the United Nations, when it comes to every single type of thing you can think of. let's put starvation amongst other ones. But again, who looks right now at Yemen in that way?
I've seen any protests about that.
And when I look at it, because every Friday, and this is from October of 2023, and as we said, we're almost edging up to that 600th day, the Houthis in Sana'a, in their main city, have done really big demonstrations, which they like to photograph. And in it, they have, I would say, two main elements. One is the Palestinian flag. Yeah, nice, okay. And the other is the Houthi flag. And anytime we look at that, we always have to remind everybody, go look at the Houthi flag. It's very clear in what it says. Yes, we have to expect them to continuing it. What amazes me is how everybody, again, it's convenient for them to say, oh, this is about Israel. And I'm like, really? That's where we're at right now? The Houthis have closed a main shipping route for the entire world. They've hit the Egyptian economy horrifically, but it's about Israel. Oh, if we just weren't here, that's me being sarcastic. Are we allowed to be sarcastic? Okay. If we weren't here, all of the issues would be resolved. Hamas would not be what Hamas is. The Houthis would not be who the Houthis are. They'd open up the shipping. Everything would be good. Hey, Michael, let's leave. I'm sorry. That was me being very sarcastic.
That's all right. And we're not going to. I'll reassure our viewers that
we're not leaving. Let's go back to before. We're here. Our children are here. Our grandchildren will be here in Mirza Hashem. Everything is going to continue as we want.
A final word. You're somebody who's been on the TV screens through multiple conflicts, been the face of Israel, certainly. What do you think Israel should be getting across in terms of its messaging right now to the world?
That we have a heart. We lost our heart in the world. And I say that to every single one of us. No buts. Stand strongly and say, it is horrible when innocent people die in the world. And don't say, but they're not innocent. It's horrible when children die. And don't say, but it's the Hamas's fault. Just have a heart. After that, make your point.
Sounds good. And let me ask you finally, if you don't mind, to turn to our Stand With Us audience watching right now and just give them a message following this distressing week in the United States, tough situation here in Israel. What's your message, if you could turn to our camera here, to our audience?
We all are still standing together. It's not just stand with us. It's standing side by side. I feel stronger knowing that this audience outside is listening to us. We listen to each other. As we grow, as we talk, let's make sure we don't close any doors. We're growing, we're talking, we're strong here. You're strong with us. But together, we're going to get through this, even if it takes another year.
It's a great message. Colonel Miri Eisin, thank you for your service. Thank you for your family service. May they all be safe. And thank you for always being there for us, speaking to our audiences, and then giving your insight to us. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.